let's talk about some Final Fantasy XIV. So it's been about a month now since patch 5.3 released, and while it offered the usual quality content, there was one particular addition that really piqued my interest. As you can probably tell by the video title, I'm of course talking about the 2.0 Revamp. Now, if you ask most any 14 player about 2.0, many of them will tell you it's the worst part of the game. While I don't think 2.0 is as terrible as many make it out to be, it's certainly one of the game's weaker points for sure. If you've played any of the expansions, even Heavensward, the first one, you can definitely feel that 2.0's questline feels really unfocused, oftentimes having you run back and forth within the same general vicinity, performing the most mundane of tasks, even for MMO fetch quest standards. In a story where an evil empire is spreading its influence across the lands, and scheming Ascians speak of a mysterious rejoining to bring forth their dark god, you, the warrior of light, are busy carrying buckets of water and sniffing chocobos. Yeah. While I understand you can't be the grand hero that saves the masses from world-ending calamities right out of the gate, you do slay a being that's literally worshipped as a god as early as level 18. And while immediately afterwards you do have the 3 major city-states begging you to join their grand company, once that's settled, you're back to killing rats for no-name NPCs. It creates this very weird disconnect where you're hailed as this impossible god-slaying hero, to suddenly being everyone's doormat as they use you to complete menial tasks that even they couldn't be bothered to do. This is exactly why I was so excited to hear that many of these quest lines have been trimmed down or even outright removed. Tell me, how many times have you tried to get friends to join the game, only to have them quit during the whole Titan's Feast questline? Or how many of you have had friends quit before they even made it to level 50? Getting an average MMO player to try such a narrative-focused game, it's difficult enough already. But getting them to actually stick around is made that much more difficult with the combination of such slow, sluggish combat at low levels and such boring, banal questing. So, that was the old 2.0. That was what a new player would experience when they booted up the game for the first time. Now, I'm really curious as to how exactly this revamp changed that new player experience, so I've decided to record my adventures on a fresh new character. In this series, I'm aiming to give a recap of the major events in the story as I re-experience them, because it's been a while, honestly, and maybe record some interesting tidbits that I might find along the way. And then finally, I hope to give a summary at the end of each video on my feelings so far about the revamp. Without further ado, let's jump right in. And so our story begins, like most good fantasy stories, with a half-naked bunny girl. Look at that, there she is. That's you, by the way. That is the player character. And you are finding yourself in some sort of void, confronted by what is seemingly the main antagonist of the story. We can tell this because he has an evil laugh, he's wearing black robes, and he has a mask. Luckily for you, you get a preview of what you're gonna be like at level 50. So show them what you've got. So once you've gotten your little preview of how cool you're gonna be at level 50, we start the game off proper. And in our case, because we picked the warrior as our starting class, we're gonna start off in Limsa Lominsa. The intro quest in the Limsa Lominsa area is pretty interesting. So you have the Serpent Reavers, who seem to be kidnapping innocent people and handing them over to the Sahagin, who it turns out are sacrificing them to their god Leviathan. It's your job as a plucky young adventurer to stop this. Along the way, you meet your first scion, Ishtola. And as you two are getting to know each other, you are suddenly attacked by a crazed Gubu. Now, here's something that I had totally forgotten. Apparently, your very first crystal of light, these all-important artifacts that give you this connection to the goddess crystal herself, is practically pooped out by some random Gubu. I had totally forgotten all about this, but yeah. Congratulations on your first crystal of light. You've earned it. Moving on. Your continued investigation into the Serpent Reavers sees you defending the small hamlet of Swiftperch from them. During the scuffle, they suddenly summon a void scent, though it's nothing you can't handle. Once that's taken care of, the Yellow Jackets, basically Limsalominsa's town guard, chase the Reavers out of Swiftperch, leaving you to fight an Ascian jobber one-on-one, ending with the mage's mysterious crystal getting shattered. Having defended Swiftperch from the Serpent Reavers, your star is on the rise, and the Admiral herself wants to speak with you. It seems that Merlwyb, the best of the 3 city-state leaders, this is objective fact, I will fight you. She wants you to be her personal envoy. You're to travel to the other 2 city-states to suggest a remembrance for those that were fallen at Cartno. In case you've forgotten, the big battle at the start of this video where Bahamut blew up 1.0, yeah, that was the Battle of Cartno Flats. Naturally, everyone agrees that a remembrance is a good idea, and with that taken care of, it seems every city-state has some dungeon business for you to do. Unfortunately, the original footage for these dungeon runs was lost, so you're just gonna have to assume that I was able to complete these dungeons with some level of competence. First up, we need to settle things with the Serpent Reavers at the Sastasha Sea Grotto. Easy enough. Knock that one off the list. Next up, we have something that I'd forgotten about. A group of fanatics calling themselves the Lambs of Dalamud, as they worship Dalamud, the meteor that Bahamut was imprisoned in. They're summoning Void Scent in the Tamtara Deepcroft. We take care of an ancient Gelmoran king's corpse that is being possessed by a particularly nasty Void Scent and move on. Though, to my recollection, we never hear about the Lambs of Dalamud ever again. I'd be really curious to find out what they've been up to since Tamtara. Who knows, maybe in a future patch. Finally, we have the Copperbell Mines. It seems that 3 centuries ago, the Thorn Dynasty enslaved the Hecaton Care Giants with some sort of mind-controlling device. After a while, the technology began to fail, and the Giants, rightfully so, went on a rampage. The Thorn Dynasty's solution to this was simple. Blow up the mine and bury their problems away. Unfortunately for the modern-day Ulden miners, they've unearthed these giants who are still very much alive and still very much angry. So it's up to you to take care of it. And that brings us to the end of episode 1. Alright, so how do I feel about the revamp? I've gotta say, the story feels like a much more natural progression, even though I'm not really sure of what was cut out or trimmed. You see, an intelligent person would have gone and done the story before the revamp to get a baseline. However, I, like Marauders these days, am lacking in foresight. So I'm having to go off of my memory here, but it certainly feels that the story does have that natural progression of lowly adventurer and slowly kind of working your way up from there. And you start as the savior of this tiny little no-name hamlet of Swiftperch. So you do a little favor for the Admiral, and that kind of gets you into the business of what's going on in the dungeons, and then later on we'll see that elevates you even further. So far, like I said, it feels really natural. There aren't a lot of really dumb little side things yet. And as far as the experience goes, I've gotta say, you get just a truckload of experience these days, which is fantastic. I'm glad that new players will never have to fate grind. They're never gonna be level locked out of the next story quest. I have been leveling 3 different classes. I've been leveling a Marauder, a Conjurer, and a Lancer. And very comfortably. Though I will give the caveat, I am using the Alamegan earrings, the friendship circlet, and brand new ring, which new players have access to the ring at least, but I am getting a little bit more boosted experience, which we'll see later on does fall off, but for now, yeah, I'm really glad to see that new players will never have to grind fates. Ever. They'll be able to experience the story at their own pace, however and whenever they want. I think that's fantastic. I love that. So, in closing, I haven't really seen much of the revamp yet. We haven't done much. I did the 3 dungeons in this video. So let's look forward to the next one, I guess. As you can tell, I'm terrible at the unscripted stuff. This is awful. I guess I should do the YouTube stuff, right? Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and smash that bell. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Ugh, I just feel gross after that. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you so much. This part's genuine. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I'm gonna figure out how to end videos one day. That day is not today.